We are here to talk about the land use element. The purpose of this conversation is for the City Council to gather public comment and provide staff with feedback on the land use element. Okay. At first, we'll just review the basic comprehensive plan process, so to make sure that everybody in the audience is on the same page about what this process looks like, before moving into the land use element, where we'll discuss the vision, growth strategy, housing equity issues, and talk about the draft environmental impact statement alternatives, and then before moving into questions from council. Okay, moving on to that review. Just the most basic question: what is a comprehensive plan? For everybody at home, the comprehensive plan is essentially the 20-year development plan for the city. It deals with everything from housing to the environment, transportation, land use, city services, and other issues. So now is the best time to speak up on how you want your city to develop in the future. Our local comprehensive plan needs to conform with several layers of jurisdictional authority, starting with Washington State's Growth Management Act. And then secondly, we plan regionally with a group called the Puget Sound Regional Council, and that's made up of Kitsap, Pierce, Snohomish, and King counties. We all plan regionally under a guiding document called Vision 2050. So our comprehensive plan needs to conform to the goals and policies of Vision 2050. And also locally, the Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council is made up of all jurisdictions within Kitsap County, and our comprehensive plan needs to conform to the county-wide planning policies that all jurisdictions in Kitsap have agreed to follow. The population for the city is estimated to grow to just under 64,000 people by the year 2044, and just over 58,000 jobs. That represents an increase from 2020 numbers of 46% for population and 32% for jobs. So our comprehensive plan needs to demonstrate that we can absorb those forecasted populations. The city of Bremerton is regionally significant. The Puget Sound Regional Council has designated the city as a metropolitan city. So we are supposed to be on par with other cities, large cities, in the Puget Sound, like Bellevue, Seattle, Tacoma, and Everett. We have two regionally identified areas for growth absorption, that being a manufacturing industrial center over by the Bremerton Airport. It's supposed to have a capacity to absorb as many as 10,000 jobs in the future, and the downtown regional center. So our partners at PSRC are counting on the city of Bremerton to do their fair share by absorbing jobs and population at these regional centers. Just a quick review of the City Council's review of the comprehensive plan thus far. We reviewed the vision, goals, and policies, as well as the general growth strategy for the city at the February 7th City Council meeting. And then more recently, the City Council looked at an updated comprehensive plan schedule at the August 28th meeting. Those vision, goals, and policies and that growth strategy are all available in depth at bremerton2044.com. At last week's study session, this is an item that's not in the paper packet in the audience. At the study session, the City Council asked for more of an infographic type of schedule for what they can expect for the comprehensive plan process going forward. So that is included in the packet. The blue items are City Council dates, yellow are SEPA, and white are significant Planning Commission meetings that are upcoming. So anyone has any questions, feel free to email me. But this is in the packet and online. Thank you. And moving on to the land use element. The vision for the land use element is that Bremerton is a metropolitan city that provides for economic vitality and diverse lifestyles through a broad variety of jobs, housing, and strategically located commercial and recreational opportunities. Now, once again, the vision, goals, and policies are all available on Bremerton2044.com. We're not going to go into all of those, but each element has vision, goals, and policies, all of those available on our webpage. And speaking of our webpage, if you go to Bremerton44.com, we have a video that explains more in depth what our growth strategy is for the next 20 years to absorb that population and jobs. We're not going to go into minute detail tonight, but that presentation provides more of an in-depth overview of the growth strategy. That being said, the primary focus of our growth strategy is to increase density and height in the downtown sub-area plan to a maximum 80-foot height limit with no maximum density. The general commercial zone and high-density residential zone are proposed to have a height increase to 65 feet. The Bay Vista sub-area plan village commercial zone within that sub-area plan is proposed to allow for mixed-use buildings, and the medium-density residential zone, a height increase from 35 feet to 45 feet. You can see here on this map illustrated up here on the screen, anything that has some color attributed to it are areas where where development standard is proposed to increase. So there's a legend there in the bottom left-hand corner indicating what zone that is and what the increase or change might be. You'll also see these dashed circles in various areas throughout the city. And those are to indicate in the future where high-capacity transit stations might be located. That's a quarter-mile arc for those smaller circles and a half-mile arc from the ferry terminal station. We'll have specific development standards that are required through PSRC and the state for those station areas as they develop in the future. The City Council at the study session also asked for some mapping showing what the existing heights are. So the next next three slides show the existing zoning maps, and then you'll see on the zoning designation legend, there's in red the existing maximum height. Now, sometimes there's a sub-area plan or some conditional use permits that might have differing maximum heights. So if you ever see two items there, that's why. Once again, this is just another map showing the existing heights. And there's one more. These are all going to be, once again, available online if you'd like to look at these more in depth. And these are the last two maps showing the remainder of the city. There isn't a height provided for the resource zones like the watershed or city utility land, and the height in the Puget Sound Industrial Center is market driven. So once again, getting back to that downtown regional center, because it is the focus of our comprehensive plan update for absorbing jobs and population increases. You'll see the proposed map here on the right, where the large pink zone is an aggregation of several existing zones, where the height limit would be increased to a maximum of 80 feet. You'll see the blue dashed line on the far right, which indicates the waterfront overlay. And as properties would develop along this stretch in the future, they would be required to extend the shoreline urban trail that currently goes from the Bremerton Marina up to about 5th Street. As properties develop, they would be required to extend that urban trail so that people can maintain that access to the shoreline over time as these properties develop. Why are we focusing development downtown? And once again, it is our responsibility per the Puget Sound Regional Council for the Downtown Regional Center to absorb growth in the future. As quoted from Vision 2050, metro growth centers are the densest and most connected places in the region and are expected to accommodate higher levels of growth. The Joint Compatibility Transportation Plan, that's a joint plan between the Navy and the City of Bremerton, also identifies future actions that we can take to quell traffic issues in the city as increasing the density in downtown Bremerton through land use changes.
This would also add consistency with other centers within the city. So centers are places that growth is more intense in the city. And we currently have the Wheaton-Riddell District Center, Wheaton-Sheridan District Center, Eastside Village, now named Harrison Heights sub-area plan. That's a correction I need to make. And the Charleston District Center. Now, each one of these centers currently has a maximum height of 80 feet and no maximum density. Our downtown regional center should at least have standards that are that permissive. Also, the Kitsap Transit Future High Capacity Transit. So high capacity transit is identified in Kitsap Transit's long range planning documents, and the website there is linked just below there. And high capacity transit is planned from the downtown Marina station up to Silverdale, where you'd be essentially guaranteed a bus to arrive at your bus stop once every 15 minutes or less. And with that, investment in infrastructure is expected to have density and development standards to encourage housing and growth around those nodes. If you're looking for a full draft of the downtown sub-area plan, that's also available on Bremerton-2044.com. So another large piece for our comprehensive plan update is for housing equity issues. And that is why in the low density residential zone and medium density residential zone, we are proposing to include multifamily as an allowed use. Now, that couldn't build any higher than, say, a single family home that is allowed in that zone, but you could allow for that use. And the reasons behind that are that it's currently already allowed in our urban growth areas. So these are areas that are identified to be annexed by the city in the future that are currently under the jurisdiction of Kitsap County. And Kitsap County currently allows for multifamily as an allowed use in those areas. It makes sense that the city of Bremerton would be at least as urban as the areas that we will annex in the future. The Washington State Department of Commerce has some guidance over some new state newish state legislation for HB 1220, where they identify housing needs that need to be addressed in our comprehensive plan. It used to be that we only had to plan for a number of housing. Now the city of Bremerton needs to plan for housing for each income level. And so the Department of Commerce has indicated that low-rise multifamily structures of 2 to 3 floors satisfies those income band levels for area media income from 0 to 80%, as indicated on the chart above. It's also good to understand that the existing population of Bremerton, over half of the city of Bremerton currently rents their homes. And so to artificially decrease the areas where rental housing, multifamily housing is allowed is then making it harder on the majority of our citizens. So by allowing multifamily in all residential areas, you're increasing the number of potential rental units that can be used throughout the city. There is environmental benefits to more compact development. Single family development takes up more space. If you have a single family home in a large plat, then that takes up more area than a more compact multifamily building that can be aggregated into one single structure. If anyone is interested, there's also links to what are the root causes of homelessness when it comes to land use regulation. There's a gentleman from the University of Washington, Greg Colburn. We have a video on Bremerton2044.com. It's only 8 minutes. I recommend everybody watch it, where it talks about these kind of artificial barriers that are made to housing, whether that's height or density, that causes a decrease in the supply of housing, which then creates more homelessness. He places that argument much more eloquently than I do. I recommend looking at that video. Once again, Bremerton44.com. Moving on to the draft environmental impact statement, DEIS alternatives. So in October, the city will be releasing the DEIS in order to study 3 alternatives to be considered, which are shown here on this gigantic table. So There are three alternatives. The first alternative are existing conditions. So, excuse me, the amount of housing that we can expect from our current zoning code. And if you follow that alternative 1 down to the very bottom, you can see in red that we would expect a deficit of housing from our current zoning code. And that alternative 2 and 3, while very similar, would have a surplus of housing under our planned land use changes. So, to be released concurrently with the DEIS will be these council district digests, where it will show members of the public by city council district what changes are proposed for your individual district by alternative. So each alternative 1, 2, and 3 will have separate mapping and explanations on what may change under these alternatives. And we understand that the appendices of the land use element might not be as reader friendly, and so this document will come out for the public to better understand what changes are proposed with this comprehensive plan update. And we're available for questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And the counselors, we had an opportunity to check in with you at our study session, and thank you for the added elements that you included in this presentation. The legend and the timeline were very helpful. Thank you. So at this time, this is an opportunity for the public to make comments on this proposed comprehensive plan land use element. So does any member of the public wish to comment on this item? Also, you may ask questions. This is a Q&A opportunity with Mr. Jackson. Good.
I've got a question. I was just looking at one of those maps of the downtown area, and there was a region I didn't quite understand. It was south of 4th Street downtown. I think right now there's a lot of just paid parking lots right there. So I'd appreciate some clarity on what that is planned for.
Mr. Jackson, do you have a concept of what that space is? And I'm sorry, I should have said, or should have reminded folks, please state your name for public record. Come on up, just for public record.
My name's Alton Bradford.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, do you know which area he's speaking about? And was there a map, Alton, that you can refer to?
I'm putting Dave on the spot, and he's going to pull up that map. Might just take a minute.
No problem.
So on 4th Street, there's some parking lots, and you're wondering what they're going to be used for? On 4th Street.
I think it was that employment zone in the gray, kind of to the west and south of the blue downtown.
Okay. Yeah, the employment district is an area. It's just like at the big pink zone. Keep going. There we go. So that gray area, that's what you're asking? Okay, so the intent of that zone is to allow some more light industrial uses. So that was set up some time ago with the original downtown sub-area plan. And in order to support the Navy's uses, really, that there's so much work that needs to be accomplished off-site for the Navy that having a zone that's very close could be conducive to having to travel less, have your workers live there potentially. A lot of other uses are allowed in that zone, but that light industrial being one of them. That has a height limit of 80 feet currently. And for reasons of a sight distance into the naval yard, it's very important that that zone remain distinct from the larger blue zone, which has a market-driven height. The Navy is very sensitive to the height of structures for potentially obvious reasons, and so that's the purpose of it. Does that answer your question? Excellent.